Hello everyone, ARG back with some more Franchise Hockey Manager 9, and today we are continuing our season with the Hartford Whalers. We are in 1981, it is November, and at the end of the last stream I said that I was going to wait 1 month and then reevaluate and see if I want to make a trade, and apparently I lied because I have a trade that is pending. It's a trade that's probably going to be a little bit surprising because of where I'm at and what I'm trying to accomplish, but I just could not resist, if that makes sense. I'm not gonna say right now, but it's gonna come evident here whenever we see that the other team more than likely has accepted my trade. All right, so we had a kind of a lukewarm month of October. Really, we went 4-6. It's not great, but it's not like out completely, outrageous either. That's not a hole that's impossible to dig ourselves out of, but we're going to need to have a few really good months in a row to turn things around. So because of our 4-6 record, we are 8th in the conference. We have a lot of injuries. Thankfully, a lot of them are for the very short term, so we don't have to worry too much. Really, the only player that's out long term is Reed Neufeld. I'm not even sure that he would make the team, so I'm not overly worried about that. So the month of October looks pretty busy. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that. The first opponent is today. We are in Boston to face the Bruins. Now the Bruins have a really good team, but they are struggling out of the gate. They are 3-6-2. They are actually 9th in the conference behind us. And we did win against them this season, and that was that awesome 10-2 victory that we had. I believe that was our first win of the season as well. So, yeah, let's play the Bruins. All right. And so we have John Garrett in net for that game. Doug Sotart is in net for Boston. And of course, go Whalers go. Let's have a good month of November now, shall we? And it starts with a 7-4 loss on the road. Not good. We dropped to 4-7 on the season. So not exactly what we want to see. We were outshot 36-26. Al Seckert was the first star of the game. He had 2 goals and 4 assists. Bob Miller was the second star with a goal and 3 assists, and Rick Middleton was the third star with 2 goals. So we did open up the scoring in the first period. Matty Agman scored from Jay Wells and Paul Coffey, but then the Bruins scored twice. It was 2-1 Boston after 1. We had a fight between Al Seckert and Wilf Payment. Then in the second period, Boston scored again. It was 3-1, and then we scored 3 goals. Peter Stastny scored his 5th from Rob Ramage and Dave Poulain. Then Matty Agman from Chuck Leffley and Glenn Anderson. And then Mike Rogers from Darren Veitch and Chuck Leffley. It was 4-3 Hartford, but Boston would tie the game before the end of the period. 4-4 the score after 2. Then in the third period, we allowed 3 unanswered goals, and that's where the game was played, really, and we never came back, and that was a 7-4 loss. Prolific passing night for Al Seckert. As we saw, he had 2 goals and 4 assists. Really good game for him. Owner confidence update. He's satisfied. We're in the rebuilding process. We're not expecting to be contenders next season. Fans are satisfied with me. No need to worry about my job. Wow. I'm starting to win people over. It's the French-Canadian charisma, of course. Alright. Now we have 2 days off before we are back home for 2 games. It's Todd Struby and Anders Carlson feeling better about being on the team. Rick Aduono is almost recovered. Ken Allen is completely recovered. So I might need to move him. Yep. I'm placing him on waivers. He needs to clear waivers to go to Binghamton. Alright, one more day off. Alright, so my trade was accepted, and you're gonna see that it's maybe a weird trade, like in the optic of where I'm at. And I'm going to explain what happened in my head. Alright, so let's see. Gary Smith, Odleifson, and Dennis O'Brien are all on waivers. Now we're gonna see my trade. I sent Mike Rogers to Pittsburgh for their first round draft pick and Ron Stackhouse. Alright, so at the end of the last stream, I saw that Pittsburgh was struggling mightily. Okay, 1 win and 13 losses in 14 games is, it's fucking terrible. So I was like, well, their first round draft pick is going to be a really good one. There's no way. I looked at their team. There's no way they're going to turn it around in a way where that first round draft pick is not going to be good, even with Mike Rogers. Mike Rogers is getting a little bit older now. He's not declining in ability. He's having a really good season, but he's getting, he's going to be 28. His contract is ending at the end of the season, and I do have Peter Stastny. I have Mark Messier that plays on the wing. That should be a center. I have Matty Agman. I have Dave Poulin. So I was like, yeah, I have a little bit of depth at center, so I'm kind of willing to sacrifice that for their first round draft pick. Now, the thing is that 1982 was not a super great year for draft picks and everything. There's a few really good players in there for sure, but it's not stacked. Let's be honest. It's not going to be a stacked year. The year after that has Mario Lemieux in it, and I really thought about it, but I cannot guarantee that Pittsburgh is going to suck again next year, and that their pick is going to be as good, and risk having Mario Lemieux. Not risk, but is it the year after or the year after that? It's either in 83 or 84 that I think it might be in 84 that Mario Lemieux was drafted first overall. But anyway, so like for this season, there's guys that would be probably good on the Hartford Whalers. A guy like Dave Andreychuk probably would fit really good. So with my first round draft pick and Pittsburgh's first round draft pick, I think that I have a good shot at having 2 decent players in that draft. So that was my mentality into it. Now, it might not make a lot of sense because I'm trying to go for the playoffs and everything, and I just traded my first line center, but for the long term, I think that I am going to get on top here. 1982 is the year that Gord Kluzak went first overall. But there's a few good players in there. For Pittsburgh, that gives them Mike Rogers, that's a really good center. And then they do have Mike Ballard, and they have Dale Orchuk as well. So they're going to be really strong down the middle soon. So I did that. I got Ron Stackhouse because I could. He's declining. He's not going to be super good, but that's his last year of his contract, and I kind of need bodies to play D at the NHL level. He's still able to play at the NHL level, so he's really just a stopgap just for this year. I'm not going to extend him or nothing, but that gives me an extra defenseman to play in the NHL for this year. So that was kind of the idea behind the trade. So we're going to go ahead and complete the trade. Alright, so now we're going to move things around. So Mark Renault is going to go back down because I have too many D-men. And now I am going to recall, I believe, probably our friend Jordy Douglas. He had a pretty decent season last year, so we're going to give him the call-up. Alright, so that was my trade. Too bad that I didn't have Wayne Gretzky. I would have been forced to trade him, and think about the haul I could have gotten from. Alright, so now we are going to be facing Vancouver. So we do not have Mike Rogers as our first line centerman now. That's probably going to be Peter Stastny's job now. Stastny is 25, so it's not like I'm leaving it to a 20-year-old to be the first line centerman. He's 25, he should be mature enough to do that. Alright, so Vancouver is in town. They are 4, 5, and 4. We did play against them earlier this season and beat them 8-3 in Vancouver. I would love to beat them again. Alright, so Mark Messier is still not playing because of his injury, so I don't know what the computer is going to do with all of that. But looks like right now Peter Stastny is my first line center, Matty Agman is my second line center, Brent Sutter third line, and Dave Poulin is on the fourth there. So we'll see what happens with that. And Stackhouse looks like he's going to play on my second pairing with Gordy Roberts. And I'm starting to like my D, to be honest with you. I mean, Stackhouse is pretty washed up by now, but yeah, it's starting to take shape there. So Glenn Hanlon is going to be in net for Vancouver. We're going to go with John Garrett, and of course, as usual, I will say go Hartford, go Whalers. And the first game without Mike Rogers is a 5-1 victory on home ice against the Vancouver Canucks. We outshot Vancouver 35-20. Dave Poulin was the first star of the game. He had 2 assists. Bernie Johnston was the second star with a goal and an assist. And Rob Ramage was the third star with a goal. 8,688 people in attendance for the game. Vancouver scored first in the first period. Then Wilf Payment scored his 10th of the season from Peter Stastny and Jordy Douglas. Then Matty Agman from Dave Poulin and Gordy Roberts. 2-1 Hartford after 1. Then in the second period, Wilf Payment scored on the power play, unassisted. And then Bernie Johnston on the power play as well from Jay Wells and Glenn Anderson. It was 4-1 Hartford after 2. Then in the third period, Rob Ramage added 1 more goal for us from Dave Poulin and Bernie Johnston. 5-1 the final score. Really nice game here right after the trade. Because you hate to see that, right? You make a trade and you're all excited and everything, and then your team just crumbles the following game. Kind of sucks, but that's not what happened here. Daryl Sittler extends his point streak to 12 games. He had an assist against the Oilers. Guy Charon reaches 600 points in his career with an assist against the Minnesota North Stars. Guy Charon is 32 and he is a 2-star player. And Mark Messier is starting to feel better. Maybe they're going to put him at center. That would be beautiful. Yeah, a 1-2 punch at center of Mark Messier and Peter Stastny would be like, whoa, it would be pretty fucking amazing. Alright. We have 2 days off, and then we are going to be playing the Minnesota North Stars. Guy Lafleur extends his goal streak to 5 games. He had a goal and an assist against the Blues. Daryl Sittler extends his point streak to 13 games. He had a goal against the Colorado Rockies. Rick Aduono almost 100%. Mark Messier on the brink of returning. And the Rangers have put Walt McKechnie on the trading block. Apparently I'm interested in him. I'm not. Alright, so Minnesota is in town. They have a respectable 7-4-1 record. Let's take a look at them. We have not played them this season. Oh, we have John Davidson that's not going to play. Gilles Meloche is in net as well. Artsburg, Hicks, Sargent, Giles, Maxwell, Potvin, and Smith on D. Up front they have Brassard, Christophe, McCarthy Payne, Neil Broughton, Casper Sharpley, Bobby Smith, Young, Dino Cicerelli, Islop, McAdam, Youngins, and Zanuzzi. Yeah, they have a pretty decent team. Not world beaters, but pretty decent team. I, however, like to think that I can win this. No, they're keeping Mark Messier on the wing. Right, so Gilles Meloche is going to be in net for Minnesota. Gilles Gilbert is going to be in net for Hartford. Battle of the Gilles. That's how you say it in French. The S is silent. Right, and go Hartford, go. Oof. Yeah. We lost 9-2. That's not good. All right, so we were outshot 44-31 in that one. First star of the game was Dino Cicerelli. He had 4 goals and an assist. Bobby Smith was the second star with a goal and 4 assists. And Payne was the third star with a goal and 3 assists. 8,059 people don't feel like they got their money's worth at that game. That's an understatement. And so Minnesota opened up the scoring in the first. Then Peter Stastny scored from Wilf Payment and Anton Stastny. Then Minnesota took the lead back. And then we tied again. Dave Poulin shorthanded from Ron Stackhouse and Brent Sutter. 2-2 after one. There was a fight between Mark Missy and Craig Artsberg. And then between Wilf Payment and Brad Maxwell. Minnesota scored 2 goals in the second period. And it was 4-2 Minnesota after 2. Then in the third period, Minnesota scored 5 goals, and yeah, that was just not good. 9-2 in the last year. Whoa, bunch of players are on waivers here. I'm gonna need to take a quick look. Dino Cicerelli lights the lamp as we saw 4 goals and an assist against us. Dynamic passing leads to productive night for Bobby Smith as we saw. He had a goal and 4 assists. Daryl Sittler extends his point streak to 14 games. He had a goal against the Kings. Guy Lafleur extends his goal streak to 6 games. He had a goal against the Red Wings. Clark Gillies extends his point streak to 12 games. He had a goal against the Buffalo Sabres. And Rick Aduano completely recovered. Alright, so Zanussi is probably the best player that's been put on waivers today, and he's not all that great. Mike Kitchen, Fichtner, Morrison, Murdoch, Coral, Antonovich, Logan Semenko, Cameron, and Rick Bonus. Nobody that I'm gonna go after. I have 1 contract slot left, so if I claim somebody, it's gonna be because it's somebody pretty impressive. None of those guys are pretty impressive. Alright, so we don't have a whole lot of time to feel sorry for ourselves because the very next day we are in Buffalo to play against the Sabres, who are 5-6-3. That's good for 6th in the conference. We have not played Buffalo this season. Let's take a quick look here. Alright, so Bill Hatt is hurt, not gonna play. And then Gushar Brador and Augusta are in net. Korak, McEwen, Schoenfield, Dunn, Murray, Ramsey, and Van Boxmeer on D. Up front they have Gilles Hamel, Rick Martin, Craig Ramsey, Richard Larouche, Luce, Perrault, Sauvé, Savard, Fox, Gare, Sealing, and Killen. Alright. Right, John Garrett is going to be in net for us, Richard Brador in net for Buffalo, and of course, go Whalers go. Yikes, maybe I shouldn't have traded Mike Rogers. We got shellacked 10-4. That's terrible. I don't have the goaltending. I knew coming in that it was going to be a little bit of a weakness, my goaltending this year. Oh yeah, we got completely obliterated in that game and shots 43-17. First star of the game was Rick Martin. He had 5 goals. Pierre Larouche was the second star with a goal and 4 assists, and Rick Sealing was the third star with 4 assists. So we did score the first goal of the game. Matty Agman scored his 5th from Wilf Payment and Paul Coffey. It was 1-0 Hartford at that point. But then Buffalo scored 4 goals before the end of the period. It was 4-1 Buffalo after 1. Jim Schoenfield and Wilf Payment face punched each other in the first period. Then in the second period, Buffalo made it 5-1. Then Wilf Payment scored from Anton Stastny and Rick Aduano. It was 5-2 Buffalo at that point, but they added 2 more goals. It was 7-2 after 2. Then they made it 10-2, and then Wilf Payment scored unassisted, and then Dave Poulin scored from Wilf Payment and Darren Veitch. It was a 10-4 shellacking. Paul Coffey has been very quiet since I traded Mike Rogers. And now Matty Agman is hurt. Right, he's 1 to 2 weeks. I'm probably going to put him on the injured reserve. Pierre Larouche has a strong game, as we saw, a goal and 4 assists. Rick Martin has a great game, as we saw, 5 goals. That's pretty impressive. Gilbert Perrault extends his goal streak to 5 games against us. He had a goal and an assist. Dynamic passing leads to productive night for Rick Sealing. He had 4 assists in that game against us. Wow, a lot of players did a lot here. Hey, Ida Davis. Welcome aboard. How are you? I'm good, by the way. A great night for Rick Middleton. He had a hat-trick, 3 goals against the Minnesota North Stars. Right wing is Zanussi, claimed off waivers by the Edmonton Oilers. Not that regularly, no. Pierre Bouchard ready for full contact. Okay, that'd be good that he comes back. Mark Messier primed to return. Alright, completely recovered, so he might be off the third line. A trade proposal from the Buffalo Sabres. Tony Fiore for Jim Warner. Let's see, take a go. Well, Tony Fiore at least has potential, and I'm not sure that he's going to reach his potential. But he does have potential, so I'm making that trade. There you go. I usually play this, which is a sports simulation, or I play strategy games or RPGs. That's usually what I play. Alright, so we made the trade for Tony Fiore, who has a little bit of potential. Again, not sure he's going to reach it, but Jim Warner was never going to stay with me, so we are now ready. Okay, so Agman is going to go to the injured reserve. Fiore is going to go in the minors. And I need to... yes, I'm gonna take a look at that after this. All right. We are going to recall... Oh God. Probably our old friend Greg Carroll. There you go. Greg Carroll is going to come in here and fill in for our injured friend Matty Agman. So now we have 2 days off, and then the Oilers are going to be in town. So maybe we can settle things down and not get our ass kicked every single day or every single game. Oh, alright, so what do we have here? Pierre Lacroix extends his assist streak to 8 games. He had a goal and an assist against the Red Wings. And then Blues Rangers trade announced. Steve Vickers goes to the Blues for Jim Ladzderwitz. And Dan McCarty. That's a very interesting tongue twister there. So a small trade. Rangers have been trying to trade Steve Vickers since I've started this this old thing. Alright, one more day off. Guy Lafleur extends his goal streak to 7 games. He had a goal and an assist here against the Kings. Clark Gillies extends his point streak to 13 games. He had an assist against the Jets. And Pierre Bouchard is almost completely recovered. Right, and we are going to be playing this next game here against the Edmonton Oilers. Now, we have lost against the Oilers 7-3 here in Edmonton earlier. Edmonton is 8-3-4. All right. Hopefully we can beat them. So our old pal Al Smith is going to be in net for the Oilers. John Garrett is going to be in net for us. Go Oilers, go. We need a bounce back game here. Let's go. Dear God, what's going on? We got rocked 12-3. Yikes. Like, I traded Mike Rogers and we had like that one good game, that 5-1 win, and since then we've been having our ass handed to us. It is terrible. We were outshot 47-28. Mark Howe, former Hartford Whaler, was the first star. He had 2 goals and 2 assists. McDonald was the second star with 2 goals and 2 assists. And Chipperfield was the third star with 3 assists. 7,985 people witnessed this sad display here on the ice. Oilers scored 3 goals, and then we scored twice. Bob Stevenson scored shorthanded from Jordy Douglas and Ron Stackhouse. Then Peter Stachny from Mark Messier and Wolf Payment. It was 3-2 Edmonton, and then they added 3 more goals. It was already 6-2 Edmonton after 1. We had a fight between Rob Ramage and Lee Fogolan. And in the second period, the Oilers added 2 more goals. It was 8-2. Then Jordy Douglas scored from Glenn Anderson and Ron Stackhouse. It was 8-3. Then the Oilers added 2 more goals. It was 10-3 after 2. Mark Messier started to get frustrated, so he fought Anders Killer. Then Edmonton added 2 more goals in the third period, and it was a 12-3 shellacking. Alright, so maybe that, with our first round draft pick and the Pittsburgh Penguins first round draft pick, maybe we're going to have the first 2 picks in the draft at this rate. Right, memorable night for Dale McCourt. He had 2 goals and 4 assists against the Blackhawks. Memorable game for Dave Christian with the Jets. He had 4 assists against the North Stars. Maurice Lukovic had 3 goals and an assist in that same game. Pierre Larouche with Buffalo had a hat-trick against the New York Rangers. Gilbert Perreault in that same game had a goal and 4 assists. Pretty good game. And that was 6 straight games with a goal for him. Strong game for Mike Bossy. He had a hat-trick, 3 goals against the Islanders. Clark Gillies extends his point streak to 14 games. He had 2 assists against Toronto. Daryl Sittler in that same game extended his point streak to 15 games with 2 assists. Yeri Gillis keeps fans on their feet all night in Vancouver. He had 3 goals against the Nordiques. Pierre Lacroix extends his assist streak to 9 games with an assist against the Canucks. And Pierre Bouchard is almost completely recovered. I don't think that Paul Coffey had a single point since I traded Mike Rogers. Oh, and we are in Philadelphia the very next day. After losing 12-3, we traveled to Philadelphia feeling kind of sorry for ourselves. And now we're going to play the Flyers, who are 6-6-2. We have not played the Flyers this season, so we are going to take a look at their lineup here. A lot of injuries. So Tim Kerr is injured, not going to play. Gorrance is hurt, not going to play. The Rat is hurt, not going to play. Bill Barber is hurt, not going to play. And Brad Selwood is hurt and not going to play. Wow, that's a lot of good players that are not playing. So in net, they have Pelle Lindbergh and Pete Peters. On D, they have Campbell, Dupont, Erickson, Hutchinson, Turnbull, Wilson, Bosniak, Holt, Murray, and Watson. Up front, they have Dean, Kelly, McLeish, Bobby Clark, McTavish, Peterson, Taylor, Ingarfield, Leach, and Paddock. So I think that's a winnable game here. I think that we should win this. At least that's how I feel. I feel we should win this game here. All right, so playing in Philly. John Garrett is going to be in net for us. Pelle Lindbergh is going to be in net for the Flyers, of course. Go Whalers, go. A 2-2 tie. You know what? With the way we've been playing lately, I'll take it. Yeah, it's our first tie of the year. 2-2 here in Philadelphia. Shots were tied as well. 29 shots apiece. Reggie Leach was the first of the game. He had a goal. Paul Coffey, well, I called him out, and he rebounded with Goal and an assist, second star, and McLeish was the third star with an assist. So Flyers scored first in the first period. Then they scored again in the second period. It was 2-0 Philadelphia after 2. We had a fight between Barry Dean and Paul Coffey. Oh, Paul Coffey had himself a Gordie Howe hat-trick. He had a fight, and then he had a goal and an assist in the third period. So Paul Coffey scored on the power play from Wilf Payment and Rick Aduano, and then Anton Stachny scored his fifth from Paul Coffey and Ron Stackhouse. 2-2 the final score. Nobody scored before the end of the game, and of course no overtime in 1981. Alright, Real Cloutier extends his point streak to 12 games. He had an assist against the Flames. Pierre Lacroix extends his assist streak to 10 games. He had an assist in that same game. Pierre Bouchard is completely recovered, and the North Stars and Islanders made a trade. Bob Hoffmeyer goes to Minnesota, and Jack Carlson goes to the Islanders. So, very small trade. Right, so I do have Pierre Bouchard that's coming back. And I'm going to send Bill Kitchen down. There you go. Alright, so a little bit more of a veteran team now. My team was very, very, very young, but I have added a few older defensemen. Alright. One day off, and then we're playing Washington. Alright, so Ross Lonsberry has been put on the block by Pittsburgh. We're about to play Washington. They are 7-8-1. That's good for 6th in the conference. We have not played them, so let's take a look. So no real injury there except for Tom Rowe, but that's a playable injury. Baker and Edwards in net, Kia, Lobb, Lane, Picard, Green, Gavremont, McKinnon on D, Casolato, Charon, Polish, Rowe, Edberg, Jarvis, Marouk, Walter, Gartner, Gustafson, Larmer, McLean, and Sirois on up front. I think that's a winnable game. Gary Edwards in net for Washington, Gilles Gilbert in net for us, and of course, go Waiters go. A 9-4 victory, so we either get our asses handed to us or we win by a large margin, apparently. We outshot Washington 32-22 in that one. Rick Aduano was the first star of the game. He had 4 assists. Glenn Anderson was the second star with 2 goals and 2 assists. And Anton Stachny was the third star with a goal and 2 assists. 9,225 people in attendance for this game. Washington opened up the scoring in the first. Then we scored twice. Bob Stevenson from Brent Sutter and Paul Coffey. Then Chuck Lefley from Bob Stevenson and Pierre Bouchard. 2-1 Hartford at that point. And then Washington scored twice. It was 3-2 Washington after 1. We had a fight between Anton Stachny and Yvon Larbre, then Marc Messier and Robert Picard, and then Wolf Payment and Yvon Larbre. So a lot of fighting in the first period. Then the second period was very kind to us. We scored 5 unanswered goals. Paul Coffey scored his 5th from Glenn Anderson and Rick Aduano. Then Anton Stachny from Peter Stachny and Pierre Bouchard. Then Marc Messier scored his 5th from Wolf Payment and Peter Stachny. Gordie Roberts from Glenn Anderson and Anton Stachny. And then Wolf Payment from Rick Aduano and Jordy Douglas. 7-3 Hartford after 2. Then in the third period, Glenn Anderson scored from Rick Aduano and Anton Stachny. Then Washington scored. It was 8-4. And we added one more goal, Glenn Anderson from Rick Aduano and Rob Ramage. And it is a 9-4 victory at this point for the Whalers. Chuck Arneson has been put on waivers. Strong game from Rick Aduano, as we saw. He had 4 assists for us. Real Cloutier extends his point streak to 13 games. He had a goal against Minnesota. Pierre Lacroix's assist streak ended at 10 games. Didn't get a point in that same game. Rich Leduc extends his assist streak to 8 games. He had an assist against Minnesota in that same game. Clark Gillies' point streak ended at 14 games. He was held scoreless against the Oilers. Good game for John Tonelli, however, in that same game. He had a goal and 4 assists. Daryl Sittler extends his point streak to 16 games. He had an assist against the Flyers. And Bill Derlago is injured. He is day to day. Oh, Greg Carroll got hurt apparently. Yeah, and he can't play. Well, that's fun. Alright, now we have 3 days off, and then we're going to be hosting the Toronto Maple Leafs. Alright, so Gord Smith has been put on waivers, and oh, that's because they just acquired him in a trade for Kelly Davis. Alright, got it. There you go. Alright, one more day off. Anders Edberg in Calgary is hurt. He's going to miss 2 weeks. Real Cloutier extends his point streak to 14 games. He had a goal and an assist against the Islanders. Rich Leduc extends his assist streak to 9 games. He had a goal and an assist in that same game. And Greg Carroll might be able to play soon. Alright, so Toronto in town. They are 9-5-3. That's good for, I don't know, they play in the other conference. That's true, I forgot about that. We have not played Toronto this season. They have Daryl Maggs is hurt, not gonna play, and Rob Allen also hurt, not gonna play. Looks like he's probably their starting goaltender. Oh no, it's probably Palmateer still. Alright, so the Maple Leafs have Palmateer and Sidorkiewicz. Peter Sidorkiewicz, of course, all Sens fans should remember Peter Sidorkiewicz. So that's who they have in net. On D, they have Guy Lapointe, Kenville, Salming, Murdoch, Naira, Wilson. Up front, they have Bridgman, Lever, Marcotte, Anderson, Garner, Sittler, Wilson, Bernie Nichols, Boutet, Butler, Johnston, Marsh, Meyer, Laine McDonald, and Segania. Alright, so they have some interesting players for sure. Probably not going to be an easy game here. Mike Palmateer is going to be in net for Toronto. John Garrett in net for us. Go, Waiters, go. Oh, we won 6-5. Right, so it was a close one, but we did win. That's what matters in the end. We were outshot 38-27, so yeah, we showed some character in that one. Wilf Payment was the first star of the game. He had 2 goals and 2 assists. Bill Murdoch was the second star. Bob Murdoch, sorry. He had an assist, and Mark Missy was the third star. He had a goal and 2 assists. 8,852 people in attendance for the game. Glenn Anderson opened up the scoring in the first from Rob Ramage and Peter Stastny. Then Wilf Payment scored his 15th of the season from Dave Poulin and Mark Missy. 2-0 Hartford here after 1. Then in the second period, Toronto scored 3 goals. It was 3-2 Toronto, but then we scored 3 goals. Mark Missy from Bob Stevenson and Pierre Bouchard, then Paul Coffey from Wilf Payment and Mark Missy, and then Gordy Roberts on the power play from Pierre Bouchard and Wilf Payment. 5-3 Hartford after 2. There was a fight between Paul Coffey and Joel Quenville. Then in the third period, Wilf Payment scored unassisted. And then Toronto scored twice. They were to within 1, but they couldn't tie. And that's a win for the Waiters. There was also a fight between Paul Coffey and Pat Boutet. And that's the end of the game. And Pierre Bouchard is hurt again. One to 2 weeks again. Alright. We're going to take care of that. Daryl Sittler extends his point streak to 17 games against us. He did get 2 assists. Greg Carroll ahead of schedule. And Matty Agman might be back soon. So Greg Carroll was recalled to replace Matty Agman, and he's been hurt pretty much the entire time. Alright, so Pierre Bouchard, you're going back on the injured list, which means that I am going to get Kitchen back up. And now we're going to play in Boston. So we just played Boston at the start of the stream here. Boston is 5-10-3. That's good for 9th in the conference. We are 1-1 against them. It was a 7-4 loss at the start of the stream. Hopefully we can avenge that and win this one. Gilles Gilbert's going to be in net for Hartford. Paul Harrison in net for Boston. Go Whalers, go. Another 7-4 loss. We are, if anything, we are consistent. We lost by the exact same score that we did earlier. So another 7-4 loss in Boston. We were outshot 43-31. Rick Middleton was the first star of the game. He had 3 goals and an assist. Brad McCrimmon was the second star with 3 assists. And Mike Milbury was the third star with 2 assists. Glenn Anderson opened up the scoring in the first. That was his 5th of the season from Paul Coffey and Peter Stachny. But Boston tied the game. It was 1-1 here after 1. Second period had a lot of offense. Boston scored twice, then we scored twice. Dave Poulin from Wolf Payment, and then Ron Stackhouse from Glenn Anderson and Peter Stachny. It was tied at 3. Boston scored 2 more goals, and then we scored 1. Ron Stackhouse scored his 5th of the season, 2nd of the period, from Chuck Lefley and Anton Stachny. 5-4 Boston after 2. Then Boston added 2 more goals in the third period, and we just lost 7-4. That's just what happened. Rick Middleton keeps fans on their feet all night. He had 3 goals and an assist against us, as we saw, and that was 5 straight games with a goal for him. Réal Cloutier extends his point streak to 15 games. He had an assist against Montreal. Rich Leduc's assist streak ended at 9 games in that same game. Larry Robinson extends his assist streak to 8 games. He had 3 assists in the game against the Nordiques. League says no suspension for Andy Otto. Sorry, I got fooled. Greg Carroll with insight of returning. Matty Hagman almost 100%. Alright, we have 1 day off. And then we're going to be in Quebec to play against the Nordiques. It's a home and home against them. Right, so Serge Baudouin, Dave Logan, and Gary Unger are on waivers. Big game for Danny Gare in Buffalo. He had 4 assists against the Rockies. Daryl Sittler extends his point streak to 18 games. He had an assist against Pittsburgh. Greg Carroll is completely recovered. Jamie Hislop has been put on the block. And Anders Edberg has been traded, I think, back to the Rangers. So Anders Edberg and a 3rd round draft pick for Claude Larose and Walt McKechnie. Oof, Calgary did not make a good trade here. Pretty sure that Edberg was with the Rangers and that they traded him. Yeah, they traded him to Calgary last season. And now they are reacquiring him. I guess they missed him. Alright, we are in Quebec City to play the Nordiques. Nordiques are pretty good. They are 12-5-5. That's good for 3rd in the conference. We started the season against the Nordiques and we lost 5-3. So hopefully we can win this one. John Garrett in net for the Whalers. Michel Dion in net for the Nordiques. Go, Hartford, go. We lost 4-0. So maybe that it was a little premature to trade Mike Rogers. Maybe my centers were not ready for this. We were outshot 33-21. Bill Clement was the first star of the game. He had a goal and an assist. Rich Leduc was the second star with a goal and an assist. And Pierre Lacroix was the 3rd star with a goal. Not gonna go over nothing. No fights. We didn't score. Let's move on. Réal Cloutier's point streak ended at 15 games. We held him scoreless. Kent Nilsson is injured in Calgary. He's day to day. Paul Reinhardt in Calgary is also hurt. He's going to miss 3 weeks. Robbie Ftorek extends his goal streak to 5 games. He had a goal and an assist against Calgary. Jim Peplinski has a good game in that same game. He had 3 goals and an assist. Peter McTabb extends his assist streak to 8 games with a goal and an assist against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Larry Robinson extends his assist streak to 9 games. He had an assist in that same game against Pittsburgh. Brian Trottier extends his goal streak to 6 games with a goal and 2 assists against the Rangers. And Daryl Sittler extends his point streak to 19 games. He had an assist against the Bruins. Ooh, that was a lot to talk about. Right, we have 3 days off before we play the Nordiques again. Matty Agman says that he's ready. Is he ready? Looks like it. Come home. And who do we send down? I'm putting Greg Carroll on waivers. If he gets claim, I have one more free contract slot. Alright. Yep, he was claimed by the Blackhawks. That's fine. I'm fine with that. Like, he had a 10 in playmaker and in counter-attacking forward, and that's it. He's not getting any better, so I don't feel like I lost a whole lot. Yeah, I know. I read the news. Oh, you've got to be fucking shitting me. Seriously, game? Seriously. Mike Bussey extends his goal streak. You're going to see, well, you're probably seeing right now. All right, Mike Bussey extends his goal streak to 5 games. He had a goal against the Boston Bruins. Lanny McDonald has achieved 300 goals in his career. He had 2 goals against the Philadelphia Flyers. Daryl Sittler extends his point streak to 20 games. He had 2 assists against the Flyers. Peter McNabb's assist streak ended at 8 games. He did get 2 goals but no assists against the Blues. Larry Robinson extends his assist streak to 10 games. He had a goal and an assist against the Blues. And then fucking shenanigans. Mark Messier is involved in an off-ice incident. So it seems like every fucking year the game targets one of my star players and then everybody starts to hate them. I have not seen those news happen for other teams, so I don't know if it's just that it only happens to my team or if it's that you don't get notified of ice incidents happening to players from other teams, but this is starting to piss me off. Your staff has just informed you that Mark Messier has been involved in an off-ice incident. The fans and even some of his teammates are clearly displeased. So Jay Wells and Anton Stastny don't like him now. Now, I understand that, you know, there's off-ice incidents that happen, but can we please not have one every single fucking season happen to my star players? Because this is ridiculous. That's bullshit. That's fucking bullshit. So I click the intervene button that does nothing. Oh, I think it lowered is from a 5 to a 4. Alright, so Anton Stastny and Mark Messier really don't like each other. And then, of course, I have that click here. Ugh. What a bunch of bullshit. Alright, so we're about to play the Nordiques with my team in disarray because, you know, why not? Alright, Nordiques are now 14, 6, and 5. They are 3rd in the conference now. We are 0-2 against the Nordiques. That would be nice to win. I did recall Matty Agman, didn't I? Yes, I did. And I lost Greg Carroll on waivers. Thank you for the contract slot opening, Chicago. I appreciate it. Alright, so let's go ahead and play this game. Ron Lowe in net for the Nordiques. John Garrett in net for us. And of course, go Whalers go. Oh, we managed to win against the Nordiques. 3-1 victory on home ice. Maybe we just needed to have the last line change or something. Quebec outshot us 32-29. Peter Stastny was the first star of the game. He had a goal and an assist. Réal Cloutier was the second star with a goal. And Mark Messier was the third star with an assist. 7,730 people in attendance for the game. Peter Stastny opened up the scoring in the first. That was a power play goal from Gordy Roberts and Paul Coffey. Then Bob Stevenson from Rick Aduano and Jay Wells. And then Wilf Payment from Mark Messier and Peter Stastny. It was 3-0 after 1. And in the second period, Quebec scored. It was 3-1 after 2. Nobody scored in the third. We had a fight between Anton Stastny and Tiger Williams, and that was it. Nice 3-1 win on home ice. I will take it. Rick Martin extends his point streak to 12 games. He had 2 assists against the Red Wings. Daryl Sittler extends his point streak to 21 games. He had 2 goals against the Rangers. Peter McNabb extends his point streak to 12 games. He had a goal against Pittsburgh. Larry Robinson extends his assist streak to 11 games. He had an assist in that same game. And suspension for Jimmy Mann in Winnipeg. He's going to miss 9 games. 9 games. That's crazy. Alright, we have 2 days off, and then we're going to be hosting the Washington Capitals. Mike Bossy extends his goal streak to 6 games. He had a goal against the Blues, and that was 12 straight games with a point for him. And Pierre Bouchard is feeling better from his injury. René Robert has achieved 300 goals in his career. He had a goal and an assist against the Vancouver Canucks. René Robert is 32 years old and he is a 2.5-star player. Peter McNabb extends his point streak to 13 games. He had a goal against the Washington Capitals. Larry Robinson's assist streak ended at 11 games. He did not record a point in that game. Pierre Bouchard not far from returning. That'd be great. New Jerry Cheevers trade rumor. He's in the minors now. He's 40 years old. I don't think I'm going to trade for him. Alright, so Washington in town. They are now 11-10-1. That's good for 6th in the conference. We did win against Washington 9-4 earlier this season. Let's go ahead and beat them again. Shall we? Gary Edwards in net for Washington. John Garrett in net for us. Go Whalers, go. We lost 3-2. Not good. We outshot Washington 36-26. Robert Picard was the first star of the game. He had 2 assists. Gordy Roberts was the second star with an assist, and Mike Gartner was the third star with a goal and an assist. 8,690 people in attendance for this game. Washington scored all of their goals in the first period. It was 3-0 Washington after 1. Jay Wells and Yvon Lobb got into a scrap. Second period saw Jordy Douglas score from Wilf Payment and Dave Poulain, and then Bo Berglund from Chuck Liffley and Gordy Roberts. 3-2 Washington after 2. We had a fight between Rob Ramage and Bob Sirois. Nobody scored in the third, but we had some face punching. Mike Gartner and Gordy Roberts went at it. Then Tony Casolato and Paul Coffey and Mike Gartner fought. Then Gordy Roberts and Tony Casolato fought together, and then Paul Coffey and Gord Lane. Matty Hagman is hurt again. He's just day-to-day this time, so I'm not going to recall anybody. Mike Bossy extends his goal streak to 7 games. He had a goal and 2 assists against the Bruins. Mike Bossy extends his point streak to 13 games with that performance. A strong game for Dale Hunter. He had a hat-trick, 3 goals against the Rangers. Rick Martin extends his point streak to 13 games. He had 2 goals and an assist against the Leafs. Daryl Sittler extends his point streak to 22 games with a goal and an assist in that same game. And Ray Markham was traded for Brian Spencer. Not a huge trade. Right, that's going to be our last game of November in Montreal against the Habs. Yeah, that's going to be tough. Montreal is 18-3-1. They are first in the conference, and we are 0-2 against them this season. John Garrett is going to be in net for us. Bob Sovey is going to be in net for Montreal. Go Hartford, go. Come on, I believe in you. And we lost 6-3. We were outshot 43-30 in that one. Guy Carbonneau was the first star of the game. He had a goal and an assist. Pierre Mondoux was the second star with 2 goals. And Murphy was the third star with an assist. We did open up the scoring in the first. Wolf Payment scored from Peter Stastny and Paul Coffey, and then Mark Messier scored on a power play from Peter Stastny and Paul Coffey. 2-0 Hartford after 1. Then in the second period, Montreal scored 3 times. It was 3-2 Montreal after 2. Then they scored again in the third, made it 4-2. Then Peter Stastny brought us to within 1 from Mark Messier and Darren Veitch. But then Montreal scored 2 more goals, and that was a 6-3 loss for Hartford. So we did not get the good game the good month that I needed in November. I guess it's somewhat understandable. We did trade away our first line center, so I thought that my centers would be able to kind of hold the fort, but I guess it's been rough. We had some very rough games. Bob Stevenson is hurt, but he's going to be able to play, so I'm not going to worry about it. Alright, so Owen Lloyd has been put on waivers by Toronto. They made a trade, so I'm ready to bet that's the player they got in the trade with Quebec. Peter McNabb extends his goal streak to 5 games. He had a goal against us. Peter McNabb extended his point streak to 14 games with that goal. Mike Bossy's point streak ended at 13 games. It was held scoreless against the Buffalo Sabres. Rick Martin's point streak ended at 13 games as well in that same game. Scoreless. Darryl Sittler extends his point streak to 23 games. He did have an assist against the Red Wings. Prolific passing night for Woody Lindstrom. He had 2 goals and 4 assists against the Oilers. Pretty good. Maurice Lukovic in that same game had 5 goals and 3 assists. Whoa. Alright, Pierre Bouchard is ready to come back, and there was a trade. Yeah, Day Lewis and Owen Lloyd. I called it. Owen Lloyd was just acquired in the trade and passed through waivers, as we see so often. Oh, Pierre Bouchard needs 2 more days before I can recall him. And I do have 2 days off, so he should be there for the next game. Alright, so top-setting Hartford Whalers jerseys for November. John Garrett, Wolf Payment, Mark Messier, Paul Coffey, and Gordy Roberts. Development report, alright, so Kent Carlson, alright. Dave Poulin got points in good things, speed and passing. That's pretty awesome. Alright. Guy Lafleur sold the most jerseys in the NHL, and the players of the month were Mike Bossy and Michel Dion. I'm gonna go ahead and save that. Alright, so we're not doing any better. We're 9th in the conference after November, so that was not a very good month. We slid to 8, 14, and 1. Pittsburgh has been winning some games. Look at that. I gave them a good player. That's probably why. Let's see how he did. Oh yeah, he has 13 points in 10 games with Pittsburgh, so he's been doing just fine over there. Alright, so let's take a look at the conferences. Alright, so we, as it stands, we're not making the playoffs. So that's not good. Now, on the other side, the Kings are also not doing very good. as are the Pittsburgh Penguins, of course. We're going to take a look at our stats. Alright, so Wolf Payment has 37 points in 23 games. That's pretty good. So Wolf Payment has been showing up. Stashny 23 and 21, Coffee 20 and 23, Mark Messier 18 and 20. So we don't have enough point per game player. We don't score enough goals. That's why we're losing. End of story. In the entire league, we have Mike Bossy with 28 goals. That's the best in the league. Mike Bossy with 30 assists. That's also the best in the league. So obviously his 58 points are 17 better than second place Daryl Sittler. And Dave Poulin has 2 short-handed goals, so he's tied for first in the league for that. So at least we are shown somewhere. Alright folks, I'm gonna go ahead and save the game. It looks like it's gonna be another kind of tough season. Sorry, I'm making trades, I'm trying things, and nothing seems to work, really. I think I just need patience at this point. A lot of my really good players are really young, so I need to give them time to develop. So we're going to go ahead and stop here for today. As usual, I want to thank you for tuning in. If you're catching this on YouTube later, you liked what you saw, you know what to do. As for right now, it is ARG out. Peace out, folks, and see you later.